So just to let you guys know how we did things at the ECC, the first day we started off by having the kids just hit off the tee without any instruction, and that went pretty good. Some kids did better than others. Usually what we did is they'd come up to the bat and we would ask them, have you played baseball before? And they'd say yes or no. Usually the kids that said yes were better than other ones, obviously. So the second day what we did was we had the kids do the same thing, hit from the tee, but this time we gave them some instruction, and some of the kids that were good from the previous day, we just pitched to them without any instruction. And the third day, mainly what we did was pitch to the kids with instruction. So we saw a lot of improvement in the stages.
By instruction, that means us teaching them how to stand correctly and hit off the tee, or how to stand and face the pitcher. But prior to that, the way we would get the kids to come was Caitlin was our main recruiter, and she would go out and we didn't have a problem really recruiting the kids, like they actually wanted to play. But if we did, Caitlin would go and say, hey, do you want to hit the ball? And then we also said to them, if you do, we have stickers for afterwards, which I think a lot of groups did. So that was quite an attraction for them. And we decided to go about this presentation by analyzing the stages and the age groups and the difference between males and females more than the individual kids. So the kids are our examples within the stages. For our initials, well, for the initial stage for striking, what we noticed is that the kids would say they were being pitched to over here. A lot of them would have a chopping motion instead of a swing. Their feet would stay still, and their trunk would be faced either towards the pitcher or straight in front of the tee. Their elbows would be fully flexed, so they weren't really bent much, and their trunk wouldn't rotate or swivel as they would hit the ball. And this is our example of an initial stage. So as you can see, she chopped the ball and her feet were still the entire time.
And just for examples of the kids who progressed from our initial stage to the elementary stage, we have Patrick, Cody, and Gabby, and so we have both girls and boys. And if you notice, they're mostly age 3 in this stage from the progression.
So common difficulties that we saw, again, was the chopping swing. This was like the first day before we even taught them anything, to see like where they were in the striking zone. And then also how you would hold the bat, you would hold it with your right hand, this hand with on the bottom, but they would just be like holding it like improper, and they were just so confused how to hold it. And instead of like facing the tee, they were always facing the pitcher, so they would just have that chopping motion because they were trying to like hit the ball instead of like swinging to the ball. And then so when the ball was coming to them, they would like not even focus to the ball, they would always focus to the pitcher, who was Andrea. So that's when we did a new style that's coming later. And then in the beginning, they were just standing still, not having like that front foot and then swing motion. So that's when we had to like teach them how to do all that stuff, and that's coming up later too.
And then onto the elementary stage. So some kids started in this stage, and then some progressed to this stage. And the difference is that, well, the characteristics of this is that instead of their weight just being kind of equal among their body, it was shifted onto their forward foot. So as the ball was kind of coming to them, they were already waiting. They would have their trunk turned to the side, so whether they were hitting off the tee or facing the pitcher, they did know that. They were able to move their hip and trunk as they hit the ball. Their elbows weren't as flexed as the initial stages, but the force did come from the extension of their flex joints, and overall they were obviously a step above the initial kids. And our example of an elementary stage hitter is Molly, and she began in this stage. So you can see her style isn't 100% perfect, but she's definitely better than the beginner, and she has more of a horizontal swing than a chopping motion.
kids who started elementary and moved to mature. These are just some examples. Molly, Isabella, and John David. And notice how they're older than the kids in the previous progression. We'll get to that soon too.
And then the final stage is the mature stage, and this is when with teaching, their trunk would be turned to the side. So if Andrea, the pitcher, was standing there, they were side on facing her. Their weight was not on their front foot anymore, but more on their back foot. And when they hit the ball, the weight would shift onto their front foot, and along with that, with the full horizontal swing would come their trunk and hip rotation as they struck the ball. And our example for that is Isabella. So one more time, just so you can see her swing. She's good.
And so the main similarities or differences between the 3 and 4-year-olds, their handedness. So most 3-year-olds weren't as knowing of which hand they wanted to use as the 4-year-olds. So if the 3-year-olds were standing on this side, they could swing left hand, and if they were standing on this side, they could swing right hand. But most of the 4-year-olds kind of knew they wanted to swing with the right hand more. And then over-inclusive behavior, both 3 and 4-year-olds showed this, so there wasn't much of a difference there, as well as similarity. And the stage progression, so the 3-year-olds mostly started initial and moved to elementary, and most 4-year-olds started in the elementary, and we got them to move to the mature. And they moved after we taught them. It wasn't like a spontaneous thing. It was because of our system to teach them.
And tracking, something that we noticed about similarities between, mainly differences between 3 and 4-year-olds is that with tracking, you have to have sort of a sense of spatial awareness, because as you're pitching, the ball is coming towards the child, so they have to be able to know where that ball is going to be at a certain point so that they can swing and hit that ball at the right moment. And an aptitude for this kind of spatial awareness would come with better motor development, which you would see with 4-year-olds. So one way you can kind of characterize that type of motor development, pitching versus like striking off at the tee, is that pitching would be more of like an open motor program where the child has to focus on using like a few more motor programs they have to use at one time rather than just hitting a stationary ball. So that's what we saw with tracking.
And then for similarities and differences between males and females, we found that on average the guys were naughtier than the girls. And a prime example of that was Cody, who was impatient. He didn't want to wait his turn. And we have a video to demonstrate that. Because we didn't let him go straight away, he took the bat and ran away with it. And that's because he kept trying to hit the ball when other kids were having their turn. Eventually we got him to wait in line and then have a turn, and he didn't do too badly. And then another person was Caleb, he would toss the bat and he continued to climb the fence even though we would tell him not to and pull him back down. And then on the positive side though, for the males, they didn't really exhibit the chopping motion, so a lot of them came into it with a swing. And they were a lot more confident than the females.
So the females, on the other hand, they had more teamwork. So whenever like the hitter was like hitting the ball, and instead of like us retrieving the ball and giving it back to the pitcher, we would have Molly and Zoe working together. Like they would both hold the ball together, and they'd be like 1, 2, 3, and they'd throw the ball back to Andrea, the pitcher. So that showed that they were like with more teamwork than the guys when they were just like standing there waiting for their turn. Actually not standing there, they were like impatiently standing there. And Molly, she was always like a team leader to the other kids that were hitting the ball, like showing them like how to do it, how to like hit the ball, or even throw the ball to Zoe. you didn't see them climbing the fences or anything. They would just stand there patiently or like showing each other like what the gifts that they got, and they were just entertaining themselves.
And we have the video of Molly and Zoe showing us.
Yeah, you can see them in the back.
Okay, so now we're just going to go over the different tactics or strategies that we used that did work. The first one was showing the motion, and this was obviously to the kids that were, say, in the elementary stage, going to the mature. And that was literally just standing there. Sometimes Isabella was good, so I didn't have to mirror her, but some of them I would stand left-handed so that it was like a mirror image and they could see what I was doing. And we had a mnemonic. I would say, ready, step, strike, and that seemed to work.
Physically rotating the hips, we had a couple problems at first getting the kids to shift their weight and rotate as they came through and swung. And so Patrick's a pretty good example of how he would dip at first and not really come around. And so I went up in the video, you'll see. And then I would help him rotate his hip and swing. And then after that, he improved a lot with the swinging motion. So there's a big improvement from just like what he was doing at first to actually coming through and hitting.
So sticker on the ball is a technique that we use to eliminate some over-inclusiveness. We had a Christmas tree sticker and a Hello Kitty sticker, and what Andrea would do is before she pitched it to them, she would say, hey, what sort of sticker is this? And they'd be like, Hello Kitty, just to get their attention onto the ball, to keep them away from all the distractions and all the activity going on outside of our little striking area. And we have moved it in.
So it wasn't necessarily to get them to hit the ball, but just to get them to keep their attention on us.
For the foot placement, you know how I said in the beginning, they were just still or like steady in like one position instead of like doing like the front foot and then swing. So we put mats on the floor just so they could have like a visual area where to put their foot. And here's Reed stepping with the pads.
So there's a couple strategies that we used that ended up not working very well. Squish the Bug was